Welcome to Teen Up, a podcast that digs deeper into the thoughts of teenagers' mind about the wonders of the world.
If you're new here, I'm your host, Isabella.
And I'm Glenn. If you're not, welcome back.
Here is a quick disclaimer. We are two teenagers that are doing our best to research everything. However, we are not experts, so if we offend anyone or say something wrong, we want to apologize in advance. Please email us to tell us what was wrong. Thank you. This week, we will talk about a film that looks into a warden's life and her reactions to the executions, Clemency.
So, Clemency is a film about the life and the struggles of a prison warden, Bernadine. It provides a deeper look into death penalty and the justice system in a subtle way with a character's point of view. So, the character's point of view that we are talking about here is Bernadine, of course. Basically, the film is leading us through a day of a warden's life. And it takes us into different parts of her job, including like talking to the lawyers, of course, executions. And it also includes things like what she talked about with her husband and her after work drinks with colleagues and stuff like that.
Right.
So the movie starts with a scene where she is executing a prisoner. And I would say this film is somewhere in between fiction and nonfiction in a way. Because how they execute is not what people do now, right?
Right.
Like they do it in a very peaceful way. They give them injections so they die peacefully. And the movie basically has this kind of dystopian feeling to it, but it also has a touch of reality, which we will get into later. Anyways, so they are executing this prisoner, and I think something went wrong, but she was very firm on it, and she was like, yes, let's just, do this. We have to get through with it. It's the protocol and whatever. And so this is the start of the scene. And then the movie starts developing. We start to know other characters, like a prisoner called Anthony, and Anthony is accused of murder, I think.
Murdering a policeman, I think.
And the reason I say Anthony is accused of murder is because here's a spoiler alert, but there are people saying that Anthony didn't really do it. They didn't have the evidence and, things like that. It's just kind of like a touch of reality that I was talking about in this film because how people were reacting to this, how the society was talking about it, how some people were, protesting saying that they shouldn't kill him because they didn't have enough evidence. They didn't know for sure that he has done it. He didn't admit it. And, there are many factors why they shouldn't kill him.
Right.
But, the judge says that he's guilty. So he is put into prison and, they have a date for him. Okay, so we get to know this character and then we get to know how he is or could be falsely accused. And then we steer into the life of this warden and we see that she is having trouble dealing with a lot of things in life. For example, her family with her husband.
Her marriage is one of the big parts in the movie, and her husband realizes that her job has weighed too much on her and that she is acting very different and distant from him and was just not in the right state due to her job and what she has to go through every single day.
Yeah, and especially during the time where she is dealing with this affair with Anthony, I think she is struggling within her because she has this job that she's doing. She needs to execute the prisoner or do whatever she needs to do. But at the same time, she's also a person with thoughts, and that she may think that Anthony is innocent. And I think in a way, she shows that she's not completely brutal on Anthony compared to how she treat other prisoners.
Oh, I think in some way she is trying to hide her thoughts like as a human. She wants to hide her sympathy and empathy towards Anthony because she has a job to do, which is to execute him. So a part of her definitely doesn't want to go through with this plan, but I think because she is the warden and she is responsible for doing what she has to do. And if she were to fight back for Anthony, for example, maybe the whole prison would kind of not be as ordered as she wants it to be. And there are a lot of other prisoners that she has to care about and make sure are doing what they're supposed to do because that is her job.
Right. I think she is definitely hiding her emotions toward Anthony because of her job that she has and all the things that she needs to do well. Just like how, say, reporter needs to be or is supposed to be neutral about the subject that they are reporting, or a judge is supposed to hide their emotions toward the people on court because that is their job and they need to remain neutral on things. And it also applies to like police officers, because there was this comment I saw online that this person says he or she is a police officer for many years, and they said that the hardest part of their job is to remain neutral even when they are dealing with things that are very emotional, especially death. And I think this is what this movie is portraying in a way that it's talking about how it's very hard for Bernadine to face these prisoners' death, that in a way she would feel like she's killing these people because she's the one that's executing them.
And she's like closing off all of her feelings and emotions, that you could see that she acts as a very formal woman who does her job. And after work, when she goes drinking with her colleagues, she is still not as open with her emotions. And we could see that more when she's with her husband. Like she's hiding a lot of thoughts and feelings from her husband.
And I think the great thing about this movie is that it tells us these things in a very subtle way.
Right.
That, I mean, by this point, you might already know that I love things that are subtle.
Right.
But yes, I think in a way, this character is so detailed and so subtle that, you know, like when she goes out to drinks with her colleague, she might have more connection with, say, her husband. And like you might think it's like an affair, but in some ways it's her husband that couldn't relate to her. You know, it's this kind of complexity that makes this movie good, because it's in a way realistic about things that would really happen for this character, and say for people in general, just like how things are, because these colleagues can relate more to Bernadine. They do the same thing. They work at the same job. Not necessarily the same, but, you know, they work in the same place. And they know what she's talking about. They know the struggle that she's going through. Or at least they have a general idea. But for Bernadine's husband, he might not get what she's talking about.
Right. And he, being a high school teacher, their lives are very different from each other.
Right.
And their worries are so different because her job is life or death. It's really something that cannot be explained through words or understood through words. And I suppose this is one of the reasons that she closes her off, like herself, her emotions off towards her husband.
Yes, and in a way, I feel like it's also just her struggles within that makes her unable to disclose her feelings. So after the break, we will talk about another important subject in this film that is about death penalty.
Welcome back. Now we're going to talk about death penalty.
So I think death penalty is definitely something to focus on in this film because it's basically what the film is about.
Right.
So I think the most interesting part about death penalty in this film is that it's told not from a prisoner's point of view. Instead, it's told from a warden's point of view because we never really think about it this way, right? We never think about the people executing the prisoners. We always think about the judge. We always think about the society, the families of the prisoner or the prisoner themselves or the victim's family or the victim. But what about the people executing them? What about the people in the system? That the people work in the system, and these people, they do not necessarily have a choice about what they do in the system because they don't set the system. You know, we keep talking about the system, like how the system is broken, how the system is this and that. It's like, are we blaming the right person, or are we taking care of some people who are left out in the system?
Right.
Because in a way, I feel like these people who work for the government or, you know, work for the prison, I mean, they could be the victim sometimes in Bernadine's case, because she is for sure traumatized by all of this.
Right.
And she is going through a lot of struggles in terms of executing her prisoners and how she's not able to even just like voice her thoughts because, you know, like the conflict of interests.
Right. I think her job is to serve justice to the society, right? But she is hearing so many protests outside of the building. Is it? And those people are saying that she's not doing justice. But that's basically what her job is, to deal with the people that has done wrong to the society. And she is inflicted and by that. And she's struggling within herself because she doesn't know whether executing this prisoner would really be the thing that is just and the thing that made her probably like want to do this job, or, you know, that made her want to be part of the system that serves supposedly justice.
Yeah, and I think the hardest part for her job is that she's not the one in the driver's seat, you know? She's not the one that decides all these. She's just a person that's following orders.
Right.
But she has to bear all this pressure on her. Because, you know, the protesters are calling her like say a murderer or, you know, things like that. And I think it's just, there's so much complexity in this subject about death penalty that we don't think about. And it definitely offers a very fresh point of view, at least to me, that because I never thought of it this way. I've never thought of it from the executioner's way. Because they're just following orders.
I agree. I've never seen a point of view from this. I've seen a lawyer's view, Just Mercy. Have you watched that?
Nope.
Yeah, it was from a lawyer's point of view and fighting for the prisoner. Right. It's just from that lawyer's point of view, we could clearly see what he's doing is fighting for justice. But what she's doing here is so complex that we don't know whether we should, like, we can't understand what she's going through because it's just too much.
And we can't relate. There is no way that we can relate to that because we wouldn't have the same experience. So the subject is very interesting to look at it in this way. And death penalty is definitely something that people always talk about. It's always a very, very, very popular subject that people debate on whether we should have death penalty or not. And we're not here today to talk about it. So we're not going to talk about it because we are talking about this film and we are focusing on the characters that, you know, makes this film so great.
Right. There's this part that I want to bring up about Anthony when he basically closes himself off towards the warden. He doesn't talk to her whenever she talks to him. And there's this part where she tells him how the process of the execution will be. I could see that he gets really, his subtle change in his face, we could see that he is very emotional and he is scared and he's really helpless towards this situation. He can't do anything. And afterwards, he attempts at suicide, but fails, which shows more of his helplessness towards this situation because he doesn't get to decide his own death.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just no freedom for him to decide anything at all. Even what he needs to wear for execution is decided, and how it's done, it's all decided. And I just sympathize with him so much throughout that scene.
Yeah, helpless is definitely the right thing to talk about. Because you know how helpless Bernadine is toward the whole situation. She couldn't do anything about it. How helpless everyone is, actually.
Right. Even the lawyer of the prisoner.
Yeah.
He has been trying to fight for 7 years, but nothing turned out good. And right now, they're just waiting for maybe one day the judge to declare him not guilty. But those are things that are very not likely going to happen. And they're just waiting and hoping for something better to come up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just overall, every single character in here is just so helpless. And they are just, I suppose they're all just waiting for orders for them to take and to follow what the people of higher status to tell them what to do, because their fighting back obviously has not worked out and nothing has changed despite their hard work. And I feel like this whole movie really shows the audience that no matter how everyone in this movie, every character doesn't want this thing to happen, the system is made like this and no one can really do anything about it.
Yeah, but in a way that this movie is not just blaming the system, it's using the characters to bring out this subject. And I think that is just why it is a great movie and, you know, a great storytelling.
Right.
So next time we will talk about the movie Tick, Tick, Boom and the loss of time.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Remember to like, subscribe, and share our channel.
Also, comment down below if you have any thoughts. You could click on the bell to get notified when we upload a new video as well.
Thank you and bye.